Rahul Alim, you are the co-founder and CEO of customcreatives.com. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us a little bit about, let's start off with you and your background. What's your background?
Well, my company is in marketing, and essentially building a business is on the backbone of sales and client acquisition. But overall, since we've worked with like public companies, private companies, small mom and pops, we've even started coaching other people how to develop and scale their own marketing agencies. So we've kind of learned the whole 360-degree world of business, which comes as a surprise when you're starting one. So our main specialty, what people come to us for, is client acquisition, and then essentially we become like almost like a fractional chief marketing team for them, where we build in like systems and processes and really kind of understand their customer's journey. So we can become a little bit more than what's on the surface level of what people are typically searching for. They're typically looking for somebody to say, bring me some leads, rank me on Google, run some Facebook ads. But what they're really asking for is, how do I increase my revenue? And ultimately, we've put together a product and service that serves those types of people.
What kind of clients do you have?
It's broad. It started off niche based because there's niches and riches. And once we found our footing and we made some good money, we can make a repeatable process, train people and ascend people from a skill level and a leadership level. We went a little bit broader into a diverse portfolio of clients. So we have like lawyers, we have dentists, we have our competitors, coaches, consultants. It's really more of like, not to sound too corny on this, but is like, who's a good fit and who's ready? Because some people that are too early stage, and that may exclude certain people, like maybe a nail salon, they wouldn't be a right fit for us because we may not be able to develop the ROI based on what it takes from a spend perspective, unless they had the mindset of a franchise model, thinking we want to have 50, 60 locations. So we're kind of selective. We don't try to exclude. We just try to listen to our customer needs and give them a solution that's not matching necessarily what they can afford, but what it actually takes to get them to a goal that they have.
I got it. And what do you think it is unique about Custom Creatives? Because there's so many other marketing agencies out there, as you well know.
I think one of the things, marketing people are kind of like the necessary evil in some people's minds, and sometimes it's the necessity to the lifeblood of their business to increase it. So I think what we're good at is really meeting the customers where they are, empathizing towards their needs and goals, and really qualifying or disqualifying if they're ready for us or not.
Okay.
We've been in business for 18 years. So we've got some footing in the grounds. We've built a reputation. We're in business because I know a lot of the companies are fly by night in this industry. So it kind of puts a different spell on the marketing agency world. But I think the customers are starting to get a little bit more self-educated, that they need, just as good as we are good at offering our services, they need to be intelligent enough to learn how to buy the services as well.
That's right. Because I mean, there's a lot of snake oil being sold in the marketing niche. What, you get to work with a lot of different people. What is it about your work that you enjoy the most?
Probably the diversity of what we do. Like, a different challenge crops up every single day, so it keeps us on our feet. It doesn't create this illusion of boredom and too much repetitiveness. So the excitement of a challenge kind of wakes us all up. So that's kind of fun. We kind of treat everything in sports analogies. Like we're playing, like, obviously I have a Laker hat on.
Right.
It's like, we don't look at our customers as opponents. We look at the industry as just different. So how do we tackle the challenge of client acquisition in different customer journeys, from immediate customers, from like when it's transactional, to those long 6-12 month journeys that could be like personal injury attorneys. They may acquire a client right away, but their checks come in the mail 12-16 months later with insurance companies.
That's right.
So we kind of just understand like the long game of each customer's and the short run expectations. But that's what keeps this like fire lit and the burn going, is just having fun doing exactly what we do, because it really truly is like a sport to us. We're just in the game of business.
So it's just you just have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, I mean, because I wouldn't do this if I didn't have fun, because I know a lot of people who hate what they do and they do it every day, and then ultimately they turn 80 and die. I don't want that. Yeah,
I know exactly what you're talking about. I mean, I was a trial lawyer for 22 years, tried a lot of civil cases, and I just quit in 2000 after I earned my master's degree in peacemaking and conflict studies. And I've never been happier. And that was 23 years ago. I left the practice of law.
Great decision.
I know, best decision I ever made. What kind of advice would you give to young people that are starting out in business? And maybe they're going to do a coaching practice or a client-based practice where they've got to acquire customers that are going to work for them.
It's just one word: patience. Everybody today has speed of execution, speed of success. They want to be millionaires, and if it doesn't work out in a week, they start over and get shiny object syndrome.
Right.
So I think the long game of patience, because today you'll never really meet somebody under like 40 that's worked a career like you. You mentioned 23 years or 22 years as a trial attorney.
Right.
You won't see resumes that long anymore. Their patience is like destroying their futures because they're switching too much, and therefore it's going to kind of prevent them from getting good. They're never going to master something, because if they say, like a Jim Rohn may say, it takes 10,000 hours to be a master of something, you only have 5 options in your life if you start long enough or early enough. And if you never give something a chance, you'll just never be good at it. Because I kind of look at it as, like, think about going back to childhood. When you're born as a boy, like it takes you about 18 months before you can walk on your own 2 feet. Parents don't say, hey, after a week, this baby doesn't work, it's not walking. They nurture it. They give it
exactly
time,
correct.
right? So that's how we need to, the young people need to treat the business that way. But also, not to sound corny again, is do something that you want to do. You have choices today. Like, we're not going to college, graduate, and maybe get a job and go interview places. There's so much choice that you have with remoteness, AI technology. I mean, the world's moving at a fast pace. But once you slow down and understand what you really want to do, is just enjoy like everybody says, like a Jack Ma, I say, enjoy the 20s, make all the mistakes in the world you possibly can, explore. 30s is when you're getting serious. 40s is when you need to know exactly what you're going to be doing for the rest of your life till retirement. So you get that clarity once you kind of find that passion, find that rhythm.
That's right. I think that's the secret too, is find something that you're really passionate about, that you really love. And if you can't find that, keep looking until you do. And I would also tell people, don't chase the money. I did that for 22 years. And yeah, I made a lot of money, but I got divorced. I had a miserable life. I mean, and now I don't make nearly as much money, and I'm totally happy. It makes a big difference.
Yeah, because happiness doesn't go a long way when you're in the middle of it and you feel in the weeds and you're comparing to other people.
Right.
I mean, the only person you really need to compare to is just the person you look at in the mirror every day.
That's
right.
Exactly
what makes
right.
that smile happen, right? Because you can be miserable and rich, you can be happy and rich, you could be broke in both those situations. It's just rather choose happy in whatever it is you want to do.
That's it. That's exactly right. It makes all the difference in the world. I know plenty of centimillionaires and billionaires who are miserable, even though they've made buckets of money. And is it worth it? Not in my mind. So this show's called Listening with Leaders. I like to talk about listening. You're in a business where I would imagine listening is very important.
Very important, yes.
tell me. It seems self-evident, but tell me about how important. Why is listening important in the work that you do and the work with your clients?
Well, it's really understanding the perspective of where somebody else is coming from, because while we may be right, they may be wrong, and vice versa. We're just trying to find a common ground that makes sense for a long-term relationship. So hearing both parties out, because I look at it maybe like a trial attorney, maybe not like a trial attorney, maybe more like a mediator. Even though I'm one side, the client may be on the other side of the table, but I'm also the middleman at the exact same time. I'm just trying to make sure that both parties have a win-win scenario in all of our conversations, whether it's me to an employee and where there could be some sort of conflict and we need to resolve it, or if there's going to be a conversation with a brand new prospect that we're talking to in the business world. We want to understand their perspective, make sure they feel heard, they feel understood, and then we carry a path forward. Because nobody ever likes to be demanded to, nobody ever likes to be yelled at, or it becomes counterproductive. And while there might be a winner and a loser, there's not a long-term relationship. It'll cause just too much friction in the long game.
Yeah. How do you make sure that I love the idea of especially with prospects, people who may be potential clients, making sure they feel deeply heard? How do you go about doing that?
Just asking really good questions. It took a long time to understand the customer, because as the service provider, I want to solve their problems and jump down the throat through the phone or in person and just be like, this is going to work. This is awesome. This is it. But they don't know that. They don't know me. They don't know that that's actually excitement and passion coming out. But
Right.
once we kind of take a step back and understand how to ask really good time-based questions to walk them through what's their problem, what's their current solutions that they've tried, why is the timing important to them now? What will this open up for you in the long game of things? What happens if nothing changes and you continue down the same path? Like they feel like they can open up, kind of not to say like a therapist to a patient, but they feel really heard and empowered that finally somebody can ask them the right questions to trigger their brain to think differently than the same old conversation. It's kind of like me asking you, and I didn't know you. Like if I didn't know you at Starbucks and I said, "Hey, Doug, how are you?" A natural reaction would probably be, "Good, how are you?" And then what I'm also going to say is, "Doing well." Conversation dead. But if I said, "Hey, Doug, what's the best thing that's happened to you so far today?"
Yeah. And I would say, what would I say today? Oh, I hit some all-time bests with my trainer today. I did
Awesome.
some
Like,
awesome,
what did you do?
I did
Right. So
yeah,
it'll lead to
there you
further conversation,
there you go.
right? Yeah.
Now
So
what
now we have a connection.
there you go. So what I'll do, I'll do it the same way, but I'll say, okay, so Ro, what was the best thing that happened? What's the best thing that's happened to you today? Today is a spring equinox. What's the best thing that's happened to you in this beautiful day before we get blasted with more rain tomorrow?
I mean, can I say being on this podcast with you?
Sure. So you were pretty excited. You're smiling. You're pretty excited and happy to be on the podcast.
Exactly. I love
And
it. I love
and
doing podcasts.
you love doing podcasts, and you love sharing your knowledge with people and sharing your wisdom. And when you do
Exactly.
that, you feel really satisfied.
Yeah, and the same goes true to whether it's having a conversation at Starbucks, whether it's talking to an employee, talking to a prospect. It's just the art and science of communication to make people feel good about themselves, right? Because it's easy to make people feel good, and it's also easy to make people feel bad. Which one of those people do you want to be, though?
That's right. And I also think that the one thing that people do not get enough of and they crave is to be listened to and validated at a really deep level.
Mm-hmm.
And when they can be validated at a really deep level, you build instant trust, instant rapport, instant loyalty. You convert prospects into clients. And if you're dealing with an angry person, you can calm an angry person in 90 seconds or less. I mean, it's really powerful stuff.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's what I love about what we do. It's solving big problems for people that wouldn't ordinarily be solved if they didn't come across a person like you or a person like me in what we
Right.
do and our specialties.
How do people find you? How do you mark? Do you follow your own sauce? Eat your own sauce?
Yeah, and surprise, like that's one of the things that I always talk to prospects about is like marketing agencies are shoemakers with no shoes for the most part.
Right.
So they like the way I see another marketing company is like, first of all, with us, we will only offer something if we do it for our own business. That's just, I think, should be a law. It should be the rule, but unfortunately it's not. But when a marketing company doesn't do marketing, but will sell it to you, that just means they're saying, hey, I don't want to risk my own money on it because I don't know if it works. But if you have money to spend on it, it works for you. So it's good enough for you, but not enough for me. So that's not really how we operate. We need to know with evidence that we will be willing to put our own money where our mouth is to make sure things work. And quite frankly, that's how we go from cold to sold. That's how we go from a cold prospect to somebody in our email list, to our Facebook group, to our LinkedIn, to our like ecosystem in general. So we can actually give a customer journey to somebody. So like in today's world, we have to stand above the noise in every industry because it's competitive everywhere, and jobs are getting lost by big, huge companies. What are they going to do? They're all going to be consultants. They're all going to go work from home. So everything's getting more and more competitive. So the way we rise above is deliver superior value up front, give our knowledge and playbooks away totally for free so somebody can self-operate them. But if they need our help, that's when they buy our time. They buy our execution.
Right.
Kind of like if you had Tom Brady's playbook, you're not going to win the Super Bowl, right? But if you were
That's right.
young, and if you were young, you were like with your workouts and whatnot, you had Bill Belichick and you had all the coaches around you, you have a probability of success to operate that playbook.
a lot better. It's a difference between the DIY mentality and hiring a coach or experts that can really guide you through the process. I mean, it's the same thing in my business. I mean, you can read my books and you can go to my website and read all about how to listen, but until you really get a coach who can show you what it's really all about, you're going to struggle. There's a lot of people. Well, this is an interesting question. Have you met many people that really don't know how to listen?
Yeah, they jump down your throat. They interrupt you.
Right.
When you give them good advice, they deny that advice and say they tried it and it doesn't work. So yeah, 100%. There's a lot of people like that. They're just not self-aware. They probably don't have a coach.
They probably don't have a coach, and they've never learned how to listen. And so they either get distracted or they become reactive, and they're their own worst enemies. And these are people who probably get into arguments and fights that are unnecessary. They probably are not nearly as successful as they could be because they haven't learned this essential skill.
It's an ego thing too. Too big of an ego to have the loudest voice in the room. I mean, the goal is to not be the smartest man in the room. And if you are, then you're in the wrong room.
That's exactly right. If I would much prefer to be quiet and be the stupid one in the room and be around a lot of smart people and listen to them and learn than have to be the guy that sits at the head of the table and talks to everybody.
That's what homeowners association meetings are for. Everybody wants to talk.
Well, yeah, I mean, I remember in the day, I mean, the homeowners association, nobody has accountability or responsibility, but they got all the power, right? So
exactly.
So they can exercise their power with impunity, and it's just, yeah, that's kind of a classic problem. So what do you do with people when, let's say, you within your organization, your company, Custom Creatives? How do you manage disagreements when people disagree with an approach or an idea?
Well, I mean, we don't necessarily have too many disagreements.
Oh, good.
I mean, we have conversations of like, there's going to be times where it's like, I want to do it my way. They want to do it a slightly different way. And our happy medium is, because we're marketers, do both. May
Right.
the better man win. And then if we do, the other person just says, cool. I mean, that's what marketing is. It's a matter of optimizing and testing strategies.
Right.
Otherwise, we don't have the crystal ball. So that's really kind of like the main thing, is just the ability to just kind of come on a common ground. And if one person is not identifiably correct, just do both. Try both ways.
Have you ever had to engage in a difficult conversation with anybody?
Yeah, I mean, we've terminated people. It sucks. I don't like doing it.
Oh yeah, well, that would be a difficult conversation. When you
Yeah, I mean, there's been outside of work talk, like, I mean, with like family, friends, with money, loans, and you like false promises. There's definitely those difficult conversations, but I mean, as long as you get comfortable in those difficult situations, they no longer become difficult. They become something just of normal, second nature human communication.
How do you conduct those conversations so that they turn out the way that you want?
I start off with just the very direct approach. I have a very difficult conversation that's been on my mind that I like to have with you. Is it something that you're available for me right now?
Okay. And they say,
yes.
yeah.
I just set it up. I set it up and I say, here it is. And I try to present it as if it's worse than it is. So when it's received, it's not so bad.
Right. Right. Interesting. And then you just let the other person talk and listen to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
If I'm in control and I'm in the driver's seat from this conversation, yeah, it's all about listening to their perspective. Because if I'm trying to find, if my goal is to pick up the phone or have that conversation, it's difficult, then I need to see what's causing them fear and anxiety from communicating with me.
Yeah,
now, on the opposite end, me personally, I like to get in front of problems as best as I possibly can by just being in front of them, just addressing them before they become like if I have a cavity, I prefer not to let it become an extraction.
Right.
It's easy if you wait long enough, it's going to get, nobody forgot about it. It's still there.
Exactly.
So you try to take that head on as quickly as possible, because we know when we avoid those calls or that client or whomever, whatever scenario it is, we know that it didn't go away just because you missed a call and they didn't call back in the next day. It didn't disappear.
That's
you still have to address it. It just ultimately gets worse and worse if it goes on for too long.
Yeah, you can't avoid them forever, or bad things are gonna happen. Well, so you've got some really great listening skills. You've got a lot of experience in listening. You see the importance of it. How well are you able to take those skills and use them at home?
Oh, I use them all the time.
Oh, good for
I
you.
use them all the time. Yeah, because I mean I've read and listened to lots of leadership books and persuasion books and communication books, and I mean it works in social settings. It's not like it's a tactic and a strategy. It's just like a preferred way of communication
or a way of being.
Yeah. I mean, you embody it once you live it and breathe it for so long.
That's right.
It just becomes part of your life.
That's a really nice way to put it, because that's when I'm teaching people these skills, I'm saying you want to get to the place where this is just absolutely part of who you are. It's habitual, and you're always a listener. And you always, because you're listening, you always know what to say, how to say it, when to say it, no matter how intense the situation. And you'll never be thrown a curveball. So
yeah, and I think with your experience and some of the difficulties of running a business as an entrepreneur, there's obviously anxiety, headaches, sleepless nights.
I mean,
already being in extreme difficult situations makes a lot, like the worse the situation you can be in, you have to look at it as a learning process, because things in the future will become that much easier. It won't phase you. It won't like catch you off guard as quickly. So it does take experience of things that happen in your life that will make it stronger. And the learning lesson might not be right in front of you. It might come out of you months or years later.
Right. But to your point, it's the challenges and the disagreements that cause you to learn the most, and the failures. I even harking back to my trial lawyer days, I learned more from the very few trials I lost. I could tell you every trial I lost. I could tell you every trial that I won.
Exactly.
I just don't remember them.
It's always incremental improvement. That's why. I mean,
that's right.
That's why Michael Jordan posters exist. How he missed that many game-winning shots, that many, and how the story goes. But he's just goes down in history as one of the best.
Yeah, I mean, you look at that young woman, Michaela Schifrin, who just wiped out all kinds of records as a ski, or a U.S. skier, a female skier. She fails more than she succeeds, but she's still her winning average is a little better than Tiger Woods, but not by much. I mean, think about that. I mean, she won out of 50 or 60 races she raced this year, she won 18. Think about the win-loss ratio. And remember, those women are such intense athletes. They are winning and losing by hundredths of a second. I think she placed third in the Super G the other day, and the difference between third and first was less than 0.8 of a second.
And they're risking breaking every bone in their body while they're doing it.
They're hauling ass at 85 to 95 miles an hour.
Yeah, I mean, there's a statistic about Tom Brady's ratio of, or probability of winning a Super Bowl is better than Steph Curry's probability of making a three-pointer.
I know, it's crazy, but I mean, but it really all comes down to training and experience and making mistakes, learning from your mistakes, and patience, discipline, persistence, just what we were talking about at the top of the interview, where you've got to stick with it, and you've got to be willing to have a really intense work ethic and stick through it, through all the failures, no matter what. And success will be yours if you're willing to do that. That's a hard lesson for people to learn, especially your kids.
It is. I mean, they take it for granted. I mean, it's one of those, like, they're going to burn their hand and take that advice later. I mean, the sooner you can actually really understand it, successful people always tell it to you. Just believe it to be true, because you can't avoid the hard work.
That's right.
Only a certain amount of people are going to win the lottery, and we can't really devote our lives to luck.
No. You got it. Yeah, absolutely correct. And I don't know. I think there's been I don't know, it might be too harsh, but I think there's been a real failure in our educational system to hold kids more accountable for learning. I'm not sure whether yeah, I think so. I mean, because I know that I'm the chair of our local law school, and we watch the entering classes, and it's amazing. They come to us with college degrees and they can't write.
I mean,
where's the breakdown?
Yeah, I mean, the people who serve this to me, Starbucks Coffee, graduated from University of Boulder and other private schools. And it's like, well, you're in a mountain of debt and you have no skill. I mean, if you have the skill to make a fancy coffee, I'm just regular coffee. But if you can make a Frappuccino, you got some skill in you. It's just unfortunate that your university was willing to take the money out of your bank but not deliver you the result you needed in ROI, like having a life that you want, not
Right.
Starbucks,
Yeah.
being a barista, right?
But even then, you got knowledge, and you hopefully have learned how to acquire knowledge. That's a valuable skill right there. So now go out and apply it. But
not too many people are. I mean, if we
I
looked at
know.
like, that would be a whole different podcast, is talking about the educational system, and because there's more accountability in high school. Well, if you don't show up to high school, they'll rat you out and tell your parents. You could show up to college, they don't even know your name anyways.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
And you pay them
a lot of money.
Yeah.
And a lot of time. So
exactly.
Well, I got one more question for you, Rahul. What's the one thing that we would not know about you unless you revealed it to us?
The one thing that you wouldn't know about me is that my true passion that I wanted to do, which I wish I could do, I'm a little too old now, is I never intended to go to college, never intended to even really finish even high school. I wanted to be a professional soccer player. And then I went down the sheep route, the cultural parents' belief system, high school, college, job. So unfortunately I did that route. Going in that route, had a couple injuries, which prevented me from doing the graduation thing to a possible soccer career. But anyways, that's what's driven who I am today in terms of not willing to fail, doing what I want when I want, for me, not meaning like breaking rules or anything, but if I want something in my life that I'm going to have to deal with the repercussions with, I'm making that decision for me. No third party will make my decisions.
Good for you. And that's a great story. Thanks so much for showing up, Rahul.
Thank you for having me.